The critical thing at JPMorgan that we're trying to analyze and think about, and the critical thing for markets to continue to digest, is really the differential impact of stimulus on supply versus demand. If I look at stimulus packages around the world over the course of the last 15 years, let's take the U.S. stimulus after COVID, you had $5 trillion going to the U.S. economy, but $2 trillion of that went directly to normal people, spending money, driving demand, which initiated a flywheel in the U.S. economy, and you've seen U.S. growth exceptionalism from an earnings standpoint since that period of time. The current stimulus packages that we're seeing in China are arguably significantly more focused on investment and supply. Ultimately, that's actually deflationary, right? So medium term, that's troubling because China is already struggling with deflation. And so the million-dollar question in China right now, does that only flow through into the supply side of the equation, or does it ultimately flow through into consumer demand? That's not our expectation right now, and so we're being very cautious with this rally. You already have property stocks up 90%, brokers up 50, healthcare up 50, digital economy up 40, right? You've seen that snap adjustment. The next stage is a big open question if demand doesn't come through.
But people have called that a short covering rally. You know, a rally for people to get out, dollar cost averaging.
Absolutely. And then the question is, do people have a reason to take positive investment risk on the long side, given that we expect to walk into relatively weak macroeconomic data over the course of the next couple of weeks? So that's a little bit of water on the fire, potentially.
Yeah, I'm just curious, is the market getting a bit ahead of their skis? I mean, you know, the best day since 2008 on Monday. We've had the ADRs, as Tani said, maybe a bit of a short squeeze happening here, but I mean, do you think the market is a bit sort of overly excited, given that we've got no details about the fiscal stimulus yet?
A, there's no details. B, again, I'll continually come back to a lot of the stimulus packages that we've seen out of China have been very, very supply focused. Our economists, as well as many around the world, have continued to focus on this idea that ultimately the China story for the next 50 years has to be a demand-driven story. The consumer has to come into the picture. These measures at face value do not appear to directly address that issue.
What about the whole cash voucher thing? Helicopter money.
It potentially helps, and then the question is the size of the helicopter and the size of the drop, right? In the U.S., you had close to $2 trillion handed directly to the consumer in open checks that they could spend on anything. So incrementally, we'll have to see the size of that in the Chinese situation.